Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your host, Calvin, Dale, Terry. You can hit us up over on Twitter at EDC_Calvin for myself and Dale at Dynasty_Dale. Be a little weird if we had those backwards, you know what I'm saying? You find me at Dynasty_Dale, it'd be a little odd, but
I mean, it would definitely be interesting.
thank you guys for coming back. We are continuing with our NFC teams here today, and today we got the Detroit Lions, everyone's favorite underdog. If this is your first episode, thank you guys for checking us out. We're going to be talking about all the free agent and draft and all the changes for the entire team this whole offseason, giving our thoughts on it and giving our thoughts on the team as a whole, right? A holistic approach to it instead of player by player kind of mindset. If you guys have been here before, thank you guys for coming back. We appreciate it. We're putting a lot of time into these videos, and yeah, it just feels good to get the likes, the subscriptions, and all that stuff. It's been going up a lot this month, and we appreciate it a lot from everybody out there listening. So that said, Dale, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really great. It's a very intriguing team we're going to talk about tonight, so I am excited to share my thoughts.
Well, yeah, Lions, man, they're on the up and up, and
They are.
I've been calling it for a couple of years. Everyone thought when Dan Campbell came over to this team, it was going to be he's just a meathead, right? He doesn't know
Right.
anything, but I think Dan Campbell has actually proven himself to be a pretty good head coach. I mean, everyone's gonna say, oh, it's just Ben Johnson. He was carrying this offense. He was carrying it. But I mean, who gave him that opportunity? Dan Campbell did, right? And when the defense wasn't playing well, Dan Campbell figured out how to make it work, right, on the defensive side, whether it was coaching, what they were changing. But he's the guy that's leading it, and they were 9-8 last year, looking to improve on that in this upcoming season, and that's exciting for sure, especially because we get to watch a lot of Lions games out here, so I want them to
Yeah.
actually be decent. But
Right.
they're an exciting team, right? They have a lot of
Yes, they
fantasy
are.
relevant players, so the better that they do, the more exciting it is for Dynasty and fantasy football in general, right?
Agreed.
All right, so let's start with, obviously there was no coaching changes, no major coaching changes. If we missed the wide receivers coach or something like that, let us know down in the comments down below, and we'll give you guys a shout out afterwards. But that said, no major coaching changes for the entire team, so they're looking to continue the continuity into next season, which you like to see. And I think that the storyline of this offseason for the entire Lions team had to have been the draft, right? You go through free agency, and typically we try to talk about the free agent additions and subtractions before we get into the draft. But for this team, it was just very much focused around the draft, right? And what they were able to do in that. And there was a lot of reactions to the draft, and a lot of thoughts on it as well. And that's where I think that we're going to kick it off here. But before that, Dale, any last thoughts before we jump into the team here? Dale's quiet. We got to break him out of his shell tonight, guys. You gotta help me out here. So in round one, obviously they traded back for Jahmyr Gibbs. They had the number, what was it? The number
6 pick.
6 pick, right? They thought about taking Jahmyr Gibbs there. They didn't take Jahmyr Gibbs there. They traded back to 12.
That would have been crazy for them
I
to
know,
take
because it would have
Jahmyr
been
Gibbs at
ahead
6.
of
I have
Bijan.
Bijan.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of people are taking away from that. But they were stoked. And the next day, they actually traded away DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a big shocking trade. Everyone said, oh, they're bringing in Jahmyr Gibbs to compete with DeAndre Swift. Nope, they got rid of DeAndre Swift. So he's gone now, and it's seemingly the Jahmyr Gibbs show. He gets to split it with another guy we'll talk about here in just a minute. But that was the headlining pick. People hated it. All the draft nerds, the analytics guys, they hated it. Yep. You can't take a running back that high. You can't do it. And then their second pick made them even madder because they took Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. And when your first two picks are running back and linebacker, the draft guys, the analytic guys are just going to lose their mind, right?
Yes.
But they're good players, and they fill important holes on the team. And that's kind of what this team, for the most part, and we'll talk about it with the free agents, they addressed a lot of their holes in free agency. They were kind of in the position in the draft to just take the best player available, right? And they did that. And I really like their first couple rounds here, because in round 2, 34 overall, they took Sam Laporta, tight end out of Iowa. They took him ahead of Michael Mayer, one spot ahead of Michael Mayer, which was also surprising, quite surprising there. They took Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama, at 48. He was projected as a first-round pick by a lot of people, so they got very, very good value on him. In round 3, they took one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft, Hendon Hooker. He's still recovering from the ACL tear, so he's quarterback from Tennessee. Also in the 3rd round, they took Broderick Martin, defensive tackle out of Western Kentucky, another player who a lot of people thought was a 2nd-round talent, kind of slipped a little bit there. So, a lot of these guys, they got decent value on. And, in round 5, Colby Swordsdale, offensive tackle out of William and Mary. I've never heard of that college. And then in round 7, Antoine Green, wide receiver out of North Carolina. So what are your thoughts on the draft, and were you overreacting holistically to this, like a lot of the people out there?
I would say a little bit yes. Like, I don't mind the Jack Campbell pick. I know they were pretty bad on in their front 7. It's counting the linebackers. Like, they weren't very good. And that's that's a point where I know the linebacker is this dying position, and you're looking for these athletic freaks, but
Right.
I think Jack Campbell is that guy.
Yeah, he could be.
Or can be that guy. So, I don't like. I think they could have went other ways at 12, and I think they could have. I think they could have got Gibbs at 18,
I
or
think they could have gotten.
or
I think they could have gotten Charbonnet at 34.
yes.
Like, yeah,
Yes. So,
yep.
I like Gibbs, don't get me wrong, and they were so excited getting him. Like, I like all their stuff exploded in their draft room. They were so happy to get this guy, and like, I get it, but also I'm a little worried, and I will elaborate more once we go in our breakdown a little bit. But I think it's an okay pick if you're a win now, which they're hoping to be, but I'm not sure if they are there yet.
I think they are, but we'll dive into that here in just a
Yeah.
little bit. Now, yeah, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs. We'll talk about him more in depth down below, but he's currently the RB6 in Dynasty,
That's
which is
just crazy. That's
wild, man.
crazy.
It's
I
wild.
mean, I get it. I get it because of youth and the pass catching, but
Right, potential, but
it's
we haven't
just
seen
it's
we haven't
just
seen it yet.
yes,
That's
seen
the
him at
scary part,
all.
right?
I know. I know.
So yeah. Other than that, I think a lot of people said if you just flip flip these picks around in the complete opposite order, nobody would have complained whatsoever. So it's just kind of funny how that lines up. But another couple guys that they lost. So obviously going into the draft, before the actual draft, we knew about the Jameson Williams suspension. So he got suspended for 6 games for gambling on basketball from the team facility. Kind of a dumb rule. I get it, but it's kind of stupid.
Yes.
But you got to follow the rules. You're on a team facility. You can't gamble from there. That's just, it's not at least don't use the Wi-Fi, man. Come on,
Yeah, it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
just use a different IP address.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, you guys are rich. Come on, you can pay for unlimited data. Let's go here.
Yeah, exactly.
So he got suspended for 6 games. We're not going to be able to see him much, and we'll talk about him a little bit more in depth down below as well. Some of the other guys that they were able to, some of the other free agents, they brought in David Montgomery. That was a big name signing that they brought in from the Chicago Bears, so divisional rival there that they were able to bring in. They brought in cornerback Emmanuel Mosley from the Niners, Cam Sutton from the Steelers. This is what I was talking about. They really tried to attack that position there.
Yes.
They brought in guard Graham Glasgow from the Broncos, really trying to keep that offensive line healthy and whole, and I like it a lot. CJ Gardner-Johnson, nickel safety, kind of plays. He's a nickel corner. He plays in the slot mostly. And again, they really hammered the defensive side of the ball in free agency, which opened them up in the draft to really just take best player on their board at the time. They did trade. Go ahead.
Which honestly, I think was a good idea. I think that's a good strategy as a whole because typically those secondary guys take a little bit longer to develop because of the speed of the game
Right.
and and just the physicality of the NFL compared to college. So, I do think it was smart of them to get proven guys because they have been burned in the draft before.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like the strategy if you're getting premium players in free agency. Like if you're
Yes, yeah,
overpaying for, David Montgomery, I think they got David Montgomery on a good contract. It was 3 years, 18
absolutely.
million, right? That's a good contract. And when we're recording this is Monday. This is the Saquon day. No long-term contract for Saquon
I
or
know.
Josh Jacobs or any of these guys. And running back pay is just going nuts on Twitter right now. So that's a fun time. But that said, you know, from the team's perspective, that's a good contract for David Montgomery. I can understand the argument for David Montgomery wanting more money, but if you're
Yeah.
getting David Montgomery for that kind of money to fill those holes and just open you up, I like it a lot. So I'm with you there. They re-signed quite a few of their guys. They didn't really lose too many people. They lost Jamal Williams, who was a touchdown machine for them, short last year. But other than that, Mike Hughes is probably the biggest name. They traded Jeff Okudah to the Falcons. They lost DJ Chark, unfortunately, but Carolina, I like it a lot over there personally. But other than that, there's really nobody. They didn't really lose any starters other than
Right.
probably those three guys right there. So you like to see it, but yeah, for the most part, a good offseason so far. So any last thoughts on their free agent additions, subtractions, anything like that before we jump into the
Nope.
actual skill players here? All right, so offensive line, we still think it's going to be one of the best, which is good for the running game.
Yes.
David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they get to run behind these guys, and it's probably the best in the league. It's up there. It's top
At least
five
yeah,
for
I was about to say
sure.
I feel it's top five because they have a very, very a strong core
Right.
of having
And depth,
Sewell
dude, it's
there, Ragnow, they
crazy.
have Decker, like they just have crazy amount of talent on that
I know.
offensive line.
Vitae,
That's gelling.
yeah,
Yeah.
Vitae, Glasgow, and then that's just their starting five. They've got so many guys behind that. Jermaine Ifedi, he's not amazing, but he can play both left and right. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just they've got a lot of guys here, and you like to see that. So this offensive line should be fairly good yet again. The defense looks like it's going to be taking a big step up. Now, I wonder if that's going to have a negative impact on Jared Goff because they had to be in a lot of shootouts last year because the
Mhm.
defense was getting gashed, right? And
Right.
I don't know if they're going to have the same sort of play velocity and intensity that they did last year. What are your thoughts on that aspect?
I don't think that's necessarily gonna matter a lot because
Sure.
I think what their offensive coordinator is trying to do, which is Ben Johnson, like he's kind of the new hotness that we're starting to see.
Right.
Like I think he's wanting to run wide open, score as many points as possible, and 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 the def and the defense be damned,
Right.
if they follow. So, I think they want a better defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how good this defense is going to be in all honesty, but
I think
I
it's going
mean,
to be
towards the end of
good.
the
I
year,
do.
yeah, it was starting to cook and plus it's a weaker NFC. So, I think
Right.
it's going to be a pretty solid team, as a whole.
Right. This division is wide open right now, and I think
Yes.
that's why
Yes.
the Lions are favored to be the division champions, which I can see it. I really can. The defense should be better. The offense should be the same or better this year. And I was just looking at Jared Goff. He had 587 passing attempts last year. 2021, he only had 494, but it was in 14 games. So it was a few less games there. So I don't think that there's going to be a massive change in terms of play like pass attempts. I'm with you there.
I agree.
It's just the efficiency. He had 4,400 yards last year, and he continue that the touchdown pace, all that stuff. So, what are our thoughts on Jared Goff? And I'm the big Hendon Hooker fan. You were less so during the draft
Yeah.
process. I like this for Hendon Hooker because he gets to sit behind Jared Goff. He gets to kind of develop, heal, and there's no pressure on him. Nate Sudfeld is going to be the backup to Jared Goff this year. Nate Sudfeld's not going to be pushing for any fantasy relevance whatsoever. So it's going to be Jared Goff. And, when you look at Goff, he was the quarterback number 10 last year. I think that can continue. It's just all about that efficiency, like I was talking about. I don't know if they're going to have necessarily that much, but this receiving core should be pretty good. They do lose. They traded away T.J. Hawkinson in the middle of the season last year, replaced him with Sam Laporta, who's a rookie, but he's pretty good. People are very excited because of the potential volume here. Can Jared Goff still be a low-end quarterback 1, in your opinion?
I think he's going to be a mid to upper quarter QB2. I think he's still going to be efficient.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's going to have more passing touchdowns because Jamal Williams hawked a lot of touchdowns last year.
That is true.
A lot. I think he had
17.
Yes, I think he had 17 total. He had like 12 or 13 within the 5-yard line. It was ridiculous. So
I think 8 of them were from the 1-yard line.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. So I do think Jared Goff is going to get some of those touchdowns. Sure. I don't think all by any means, but he's definitely going to get some. So I think he has a chance to duplicate a little bit of what he did last year, and I think the yardage is going to be very similar. And with him he had touchdowns that he had last year.
29. He was 29 and 7. So he's been very efficient for this team since he's kind of become the starter over here. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I personally think that, quarterback 18, as long as Goff is healthy, is kind of his floor. Mm-hmm. And, 10 is probably a ceiling. What we saw last year is kind of the ceiling there. But he's someone that nobody really wants to invest in. And I think, them not getting a quarterback this year, when you had the 6th pick, they could have taken Will Levis. They could have made an attempt to trade up for one of those guys up there at whether it was Anthony Richardson, to jump and get Anthony Richardson, or even try and get CJ Stroud or one of those other guys. They could have even tried to trade with the Bears for the 101. I doubt they would have done it, but it's entirely possible. But the fact that they want to stick with Jared Goff, the GM has said multiple times, Jared Goff is our guy. They believe in Jared Goff here. And I think that the community needs to start believing in Jared Goff a little bit more too, and start kind of respecting him. He's not very old.
I think the problem was that when he was in LA and they saw him go to these in these December games, he just floundered. And that really sticks with a lot of people at the season's end, and seeing you play like garbage in there. So which he has the potential to play late in the year in Chicago, like he did a couple years ago.
Yeah, last year though he played against Chicago in 22 fantasy points.
So I'm not super worried about it with that. I think it helps that he's going to play a good majority of his games inside in a dome. Right? Yeah, so I'm not really worried about that.
All right, so what are we thinking he's worth? Would first round pick? Do you think that's pretty fair for Jared Goff? Late first?
I would say late. I mean, I would rather have him over Will Levis.
For sure. And he's kind of the first, right?
Right. Like an edge first. So
this is going to be a bold take. I'd rather have Jared Goff than Bryce Young.
Fair.
I think the offense is better. I think the system is better. And I think that, limitations wise, he's proven to be just more consistent than what an unknown Bryce Young is. You're never going to be able to get that trade if you have Jared Goff. So but you could get, if you have Bryce Young, you could get Jared Goff plus, and that's kind of what I would be potentially looking at personally. So,
fair enough.
And I think Jared Goff has a couple more years left, right? I think that if they make the playoffs this year, they're going to sign Jared Goff to a long-term contract. It's just going to happen. So, all right, let's go on to some of the weapons here. And this is why I think we're so high on this team, right, is you've got Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. You've got David Montgomery. You've got Craig Reynolds coming back, as they like him over there. He's kind of the number 3. Mohamed Ibrahim. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs should be the 1-2 for sure for this team. I think David Montgomery is going to take a lot more of the goal line carries, and he's going to be more of the pass catching, or the the pass blocking guy just because he's
Mm-hmm.
bigger than Jahmyr
Yeah.
Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is a
Oh,
little bit smaller.
and also he's more seasoned. Like he knows how to do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Is
Yep.
is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't want some 6'4", 250-pound lineman coming at Jared Goff and destroying him. So
Right. Gibbs, I think
in all honesty,
Gibbs has a fairly good baseline for that,
yeah,
coming from
yeah,
Alabama. But yeah,
uh-huh.
it's other. It's the next. There's levels to this, as they
Different.
say,
It's
right?
different.
Yeah,
Yes, it's different.
exactly. So Jahmyr Gibbs, again, we talked about him a little bit earlier. Current dynasty RB6. I don't even know if he finishes as the RB1 on this team this year. Long
I
term, I
agree with
like
that. I
him
agree.
a lot, but I think David Montgomery is going to have more snaps, more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you're relying only for the pass catching work, it's a little sketchy, but they do have very good, there's a lot of opportunity in the slot to kind of move him out to the slot for this team.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see Jahmyr Gibbs having around 75 targets this year. I really could.
Right.
But if he's only getting 150 carries, he just needs to be very efficient with his touches. I'm just hesitant. I want to see it before I'm willing to spend RB6 value on Jahmyr Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I like it, and I think that the potential is there. But man, that's a risk, right? If you invest in that and it misses, that it's just going to put your team back pretty heavily for Dynasty. Do you have
Right. I agree with that. I kind of view him all along similar lines as Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
If you want to look at that,
He's
because
basic.
I mean,
I look at him as Austin Eckler. Like that's who I
yeah,
kind of look at him at.
but Austin Eckler is a running back one.
Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
I
It's all
don't
because of the pass
necessarily
work, right? That's
right, but I don't necessarily think I don't think Gibbs can do that, especially with Montgomery there. Like I think Montgomery's going to take up a lot more than what people think because
for sure. This year. I'm saying
this year.
long term. That's how I kind of see his potential,
Fair.
right? You remember Austin Eckler was always behind.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon, until he
Yeah.
kind of got to have that chance to
Emerge, right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you. I think that early in his career he could be limited by Dave Montgomery, but I just think that he has that Austin Eckler. If you're looking for a comp and what the ideal situation for Gibbs is, it would be Austin Eckler. They're both about 200 pounds. They're both smaller a little bit. Very, very good pass catchers. And kind of explosive, shifty guys. That's kind of what you want Jahmyr Gibbs to be. He can become that, but it's a little risky. But if he does become that, that's where that value is definitely paying off.
Fair.
Any last thoughts on the running backs, or you want to go over the receivers?
Nope.
All right,
so
the
wide receivers,
pass catchers. We'll lump the tight ends in here. The only tight end worth even rostering. I know a lot of people. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about Brock Wright, he and James Mitchell. I think that they drafted Sam Laporta to be the guy. I really do, and he stood out so far in rookie minicamp. All the coaches have been raving on him nonstop. I think that there's a very real world where Sam Laporta has about 90 targets this year. I'm not even
it's fair, but I think just beware of the rookie tight end. I know that's the
yes,
I know that's cliche, but
yep. No, but here's the thing, right? Here's the reason why I like Sam Laporta in general compared to most rookie tight ends, and I'm with you 100%. I think that this offensive line, we already talked about it, it has the potential to be top 5, right? Maybe even the number 1 offensive line in the NFL this year. A lot of the times you need your tight end. These offensive lines for most of these teams are not good enough that you can have the flexibility to only block with 5, right? A lot of times you need that tight end to be a blocker, and Sam Laporta is a good blocker, and he can do that, and they'll use him for that, but they have so much flexibility because the other pieces of the line are so good that they're going to be able to shift him out and let him go on more routes. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only reason why I think that he has the potential for more targets is because the rest of the offensive line can make up for losing him, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, and I can see that. I don't know if he's going to have 90 targets. Like that's a lot.
It's a lot, but I mean,
it's a lot.
If you look at the receivers, right? So you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we love, Jamison Williams, who is suspended for 6 games, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, They brought back Marvin Jones Jr. Other than that, they really don't have any guys. So,
I
we
know.
can definitely expect Amon-Ra to continue his massive
Hmm.
workload there. He's not even listed on Sleeper. What is this Sleeper? He's the number one wide receiver. You have Marvin Jones above. What are we doing here?
That guy.
He had 146 targets last year, right?
Right.
We talked about Jared Goff. Last year, he had 587 passing attempts. If Jameson Williams is suspended for a period of time, Josh Reynolds had 59 targets last year. Where are these targets going to go? And obviously, we think that some are going to go to Jahmyr Gibbs. We think some are going to go to Jameson Williams when he's healthy, Khalif Raymond, and he's going to spread the ball around a little bit. But I just think that there's the potential. There's a hole for a lot of targets. You look at what TJ Hawkinson was averaging before he got traded, and it was a lot. It was good
Hmm.
for fantasy. 7, 7, 4, 12, 4, 5, 4, 9, 10, 9, 6. Like, it was a lot of targets. So I think that there is definitely some potential here for Sam Laporta to maybe not 90. Maybe 90 is excessive, but 75, he could easily be a tight end one his rookie season with that kind of volume.
Right. I could. I mean, with the tight end position being what it is, I could see that. But
Yep.
I think the hardest thing to value him in would be startups, because
Yeah.
typically that's going to be the hardest thing to value him and to see where he's going to go, because I feel in rookie drafts he's going in the mid second round typically, which honestly for it's for a rookie tight end, that's fairly respectable. I don't mind that,
Yeah.
but
He's
in
currently, his ADP is pick number 120. So
okay.
that's 10th round, end
Yep.
of the 10th, right?
Yep.
He's tight end number 12 behind Evan Ingram, Michael Mayer, Pat
Hmm.
Fryermuth, Dallas Goddard, some of these, Dalton Kincaid. Um,
Right.
I just see that there's a lot of potential, and I don't think
Yep.
the hype has gotten too out of control yet. So I think that
Mm.
if he comes out high, I think it's gonna just explode.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that.
All right, let's talk about some of these receivers really quickly. I mean, obviously, Amon-Ra, we still think he's a
Hmm.
stud.
Yep.
He's going to be the dude.
Yep.
He's one of the happiest predictions I've ever had. I thought he was the man. And, but he was a fourth round pick, Dale. Did you know he was a fourth round pick? He
I
could
know.
never
I
be
know.
good. Except now he's currently the wide receiver 6 in Dynasty rankings. So
Dynasty,
you
right?
love to see it. You love to see it. This is why the draft capital narrative not always reliable.
That's
I will
true.
say.
That is true.
Do you like him at RB or wide receiver 6 value? Is that too high? He's going in front
I
of
th-
guys like Olave,
uh-huh.
Waddle, Tyreek, Stephon Diggs.
Right. I think
I
with
think it's
those,
fair, personally.
I think that's about where he should be going.
The volume is
Yes.
just going to be nuts, and he's only
Yeah, is
20.
gonna
He's
be
23.
yes.
Like,
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good value for him.
yep. All right, fair enough. Now, Jameson Williams is the only other guy that personally I want to invest in. We Josh Reynolds
Right.
is a guy that I was looking at, but he only had 59 targets the entire year last year. Marvin Jones is 34 years old. I'm out on that. Like, I just don't want to trust it. Give me
Right.
if I'm ranking the players here, I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson, Laporta, Dave Montgomery. That's my top
Right.
5 here. What are your
That's
thoughts
fair.
on Jameson? Do you think
I
he
I
has a
th-
potential?
um I'm out on Jameson. I was sipping the Kool-Aid last year and saw all this, and I'm out. I think he's too boom bust for my liking.
The problem is
You
we don't
know,
know. That's the only
yes.
downside.
I mean, I know he's explosive. I know he's talented. I watched him play at Ohio State, watched him play at Alabama, and I see the talent. I do, but
Right.
I think he's way too boom bust for my liking, and
Sure.
that really that's too volatile. I kind of view him like I do Devon A. Chain. Like
Fair.
I think that the talent's there. The talent is immense. It's all there, but it's
Yep.
whether the volume's going to be there, whether he's able to stay on the field.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of things going against him, and plus, I know he was injured last year, but
Right.
also when he was out there, I don't think he played he wasn't targeted, or something wasn't vibing right.
Well, yeah. So I put out a video this offseason, so you can go find it here on the channel. If you're on YouTube, the Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel, just search Jameson Williams and you'll find my video on that. And I'll just give a brief summation of everything I said there, and is pretty much still relevant now. Unfortunately, he did get the 6-game suspension like the day after I released that video, which was unfortunate. Yep. But, he was injured last year, and the team traded from 31 to 12 to draft Jameson Williams. They believe in this guy. And we saw that when he was on the field, he was a special talent last year. A few of his plays got called back because of penalty, and they were all touchdowns. It was crazy.
Right.
His only recorded catch last year was a 64-yard touchdown, which you'll love to see that. But yeah, he was not on the field very often. And my thought process with this is, what makes sense is, because he tore his ACL last year, he missed all of rookie minicamp, off-season training camp, the training camp for the team. Like, he just wasn't able to build that rapport with Jared Goff before week 12 or whatever it is when he came back last year. So all of a sudden you're in a playoff hunt, right? The Lions are rallying at this point in time. They're trying to make playoffs. And you've got this weapon that is extremely talented, but doesn't really have the synergy with the rest of the offense. Well, they tried to feed him out there a little bit, but it just wasn't, he didn't have the time to get up to speed with the rest of the guys. And that's what I think, like, it made sense from the Lions' perspective to not rely on Jameson Williams. If they were trying to throw in the towel, I think he would have played like 100% of snaps, but they brought him up slowly because I think that they were trying to balance that with trying to make playoffs and actually make a playoff push. So I think that it was just a plan by the Detroit Lions, and that this year we're going to see, and unfortunately got the 6-game suspension, but I think when he gets back, dude, it's going to be guns blazing for him. I think he's going to be, I think he's going to show that talent that we believed in last year. He's a young guy. He's only 22 years old. He's currently the wide receiver 29, and I just think it's too low, man. I think it's too low. When you got him going behind guys, that are, I'm just looking here at some of the other guys going in his range. He's going behind Terry McLaurin, Christian Watson, Chris Godwin, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks is still ahead of him. Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Addison is ahead of him. Like, I think he has the potential to blow all of these guys out. I really, really do. So that's my take on Jameson, but you can let us know your thoughts in the comments down below and tell us who you think is right, me or Dale, because we have a little bit of difference opinion on this, and that's totally okay. So that wraps up our offseason recap. Dale, is there anybody else you wanted to mention here before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right, so everybody for the next one, tell Dale he's got to, it's a Monday, he's got to shake it off,
Yeah.
But no, we appreciate you guys joining us for this video. If you like this recap, please like, subscribe to the video. We're going to be putting out content all offseason long. This week, we're going to be actually releasing our DeAndre Hopkins, and we'll probably release one on running backs, probably touching on Saquon Barkley and Joshua Jacobs. Yep. Whatever. Yep. But we'll probably put one of those out on both of those guys here this week just to give our thoughts on those as well. So we're going to be doubling up content. We're putting out so much content. Please subscribe. We appreciate it. And until next time, thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a good night.